Good evening, Cobb Democrats. My name is Matthew Yarbrough. I serve as the Vice Chair of Field Operations and Candidate Recruitment here in our county party. I am excited to join you guys tonight to talk a little bit about our upcoming election cycle, some of the results of redistricting, and where we are actively recruiting candidates. It's going to be a busy year for the Cobb County Democratic Party, and we're excited for you to be a part of that. We're excited to really hit the ground running and make sure that our candidates are quite prepared with everything that they need in order to be successful here in November. So to get started, we're going to first kind of jump into a little bit of where our state house races are. The Georgia legislature just this past November redrew all the lines for our state legislative districts. This was part of the every 10-year reapportionment that happens in the state legislature. And it's kind of a regular process that we had to go through. So to that point, this is our new state house map that we are now existing with lines over. What you'll see is the districts are coded based on generally how they've performed in the last few elections. So districts in dark blue are districts that are very solidly democratically held districts. Lighter shades of blue are kind of districts that tilt towards the Democratic Party. Light pink are those that are much closer to the middle line on the Republican side of the aisle. And then the darker the red we get, the more solidly Republican we get. And so what you'll note here is that in general, we have a number of very strongly held Democrat districts. So I'm going to kind of do a little bit of a round robin here just to kind of overview them. Starting in the bottom left in District 38, this is Powder Springs area for those of you in Powder Springs. David Wilkerson, a Democrat, holds this seat and does intend to run for re-election. Just to his kind of southeast is District 39. This is the areas of Mableton and Austell. This is held by Erica Thomas, a Democrat, who I believe also intends to run for re-election. Just to its north, District 41 is a district really centered around Powder Springs Street between Marietta and Powder Springs. That kind of intersection running east-west is kind of a bypass over to the Smyrna area. But this is held by Michael Smith, also a Democrat, and he, I believe, also intends to run for re-election. Continuing east, District 40, centered in the Vinings, South Smyrna area. This seat has been held by Eric Allen, a Democrat, for the last 2 terms. Eric is seeking the lieutenant governorship primary via a primary. And so this is an open seat. I think we have 2 Democrats at this point who have declared, but we always are in any of these seats, incumbents or not incumbents. Our job is to serve you all as you're looking at potentially running for office. To its north, District 42, centered in North Smyrna and South Marietta. This is a district currently held by Democrat Terry Newitz, and I believe she intends to run for re-election. Just north of that is District 43. This is a newly Democratic district. This, as a result of redistricting, has been changed. The Republican incumbent who used to hold this district is no longer in the area. And so it's an open blue seat. We've had 1 Democrat file so far, but it is an open blue seat. Second to last, just to its north, is District 37, centered in the Marietta area. This is currently held by Mary Frances Williams, who I do believe at this time intends to run for re-election. And different from in the past, this district used to be a very heavy swing district. It's now pretty solidly Democrat after a number of years of kind of swinging back and forth between the parties. And finally, for Cobb County, District 35 is very similar to District 43 in that this is an area that was traditionally represented by a Republican, but a new open blue district has been drawn in its place that has no incumbent within it. It really centers around East Ackworth, kind of from downtown over to the 75 corridor and down into Kennesaw. It is open and blue, and at this time, I believe 4 Democrats have announced for it. So those are all of our Democrat-leaning seats in Cobb County. On the Republican side of the aisle, they have at this point 6 seats that tilt towards the Republican side of the aisle. I'll breeze over a few of them. So in West Cobb, District 36 is held by Ginny Earhart, and District 34 is held by Devin Seabaugh. This is kind of a lot of the Macklin, West Cobb, Lost Mountain areas of the county. These again are definitely seats that tilt towards the Republicans, but where solid efforts and strong candidates can make a real difference. And no Democrats have yet announced in either of these seats. Just north of 35, you can't see its numbering, but it's district number 22. This is held by Republican Ed Setzler, and it is a pretty heavily Cherokee County district now. Again, no Democrat has announced for that, to our knowledge. And that leaves us with our 3 East and North Cobb seats. So starting with 45, this is true East Cobb, everything kind of out Roswell Road near Johnson's Ferry. The seat was long held by Matt Dollar, but I mentioned before that there was an incumbent over there in 43 that's no longer in 43, and she is now in 45, Sharon Cooper. And Matt Dollar intends to retire, and Sharon intends to run in this seat. It's a pink seat in that Democrats stand a real chance at flipping this seat. This is a seat that Biden in 2020 would have been about 1.5 to 2 points shy of carrying it himself. And so continuing to organize it from a grassroots perspective will be a big ticket, especially at the same time the East Cobb cityhood referendum is possible. We have 1 Democrat who has announced intentions to run in that seat. District 44, which is centered from downtown Woodstock down 575 into the Bells Ferry area, is currently held by Don Parsons, a Republican. Again, this is a lighter shade of red. It's definitely in play and one we'll be really focused on. And once again, just like 45, there is 1 Democrat who has announced for it so far. And then lastly is 46, which is kind of what I like to refer to as the areas off 92 as you're kind of heading along the lines of Cobb and Cherokee. It kind of includes areas that stretch down closer to Johnson Ferry as well. And again here, it's a shade of red, but a shade of winnable red. And we have 1 Democrat who has announced intentions to run in that seat as well. So all in all, our focus areas for this year are going to be flipping 44 and 45 in particular, as well as making sure we're holding 35 and our newly open 43 seat. So we'll now jump to the state Senate. State Senate districts on average are about 3 times bigger than any state House districts. In Georgia, we have 180 state House districts. We have 56 state Senate districts, just like Congress. There's 2 chambers that really control our state government. And in Cobb, we have 6 state Senate districts. First, once again, on the kind of Democrat side of the aisle, 33, which is Powder Springs, half of Mableton and Marietta, is currently held by Democrat Doc Rett, who I believe intends to run for re-election. District 38, which is down into Fulton County, but it comes up and gets Austell and a decent chunk of Smyrna. That seat is also held by Democrat Horaceina Tate, who I believe intends to run for re-election. And then third is District 6. This was long held by Senator Jen Jordan, who intends to run for Attorney General. And so it's being vacated. It is an open seat, and 2 Democrats have announced for it. But it is a decent shade of blue, and we'll be actively working to make sure we hold that. Again, with open seats versus seats that have incumbents in them, just because there are candidates running or incumbents doesn't preclude or make it designated that we're supporting someone or that the Cobb Dems are involved. Our role is to support our nominees once they've come out of the primary. So I give you all this kind of context just for assistance in kind of figuring out where we are. The 3 Republican seats, so District 37, which is West Cobb and Ackworth and most of Kennesaw, but it now stretches up into Emerson out of the county. This is held by Lindsay Tippins, and again, this is probably one of our target seats when it comes to the state Senate. District 32 was long held by Kay Kirkpatrick, a Republican. This used to be probably one of the most swingy state Senate districts in the state. But after redistricting, it has been pushed up into Cherokee County pretty deep, and it's a pretty solid Republican district at this time that we'll still be actively working on it and working with our Cherokee County partners. District 56 is a very similar situation. It used to be one of the most swingy districts in the state. It's held by John Albers, a Republican in Roswell, but it has been pushed from being really a Fulton district to now being an East Cobb, Roswell, and Cherokee County district. And so it too has moved quite conservative, and will continue to be actively working to move that back into a competitive area. So that's it for our state Senate seats. Just to give you an overview on those. We'll jump now to the school board seats. I should caveat here that we don't quite fully know the lines. This is actually being litigated right now in the state legislature as we speak. There's been hearings this week. In Cobb County, our school board has 7 seats. If you live in Marietta, you have your own school system, but everyone outside of city limits of Marietta will have a representative on the school board. It's a little bit like a clock. All the districts are kind of centered around the city of Marietta. There are 2 proposed maps for how this should change. The Republicans have put forward a map. Theirs is on the left. Under this map, they are trying to draw 2 of our Democrat incumbents together. That's Sharice Davis and Jaha Howard. You'll see them in that kind of teal colored District 6. They're 2 red stars. That's centered around the 75 corridor and East Smyrna and Vinings. District 2, which is in pink, right to its left, was Jaha's former district. And here again, it probably tilts pretty solidly to the Democrat aisle, but would be open under this map. And then lastly, Trey Hutchins, whose district would be in yellow, District 3. His district would also remain pretty solidly Democrat in even the Republican proposed map. But the Republican proposed map is trying to shore up the 4 Republican members of the commission, which is District 7 in kind of a tan, District 1 in blue, District 4 in green, and District 5 in purple. So that's really where the crux of what's being debated about in the state legislature. And just as a reference point, the districts that are up this election are District 4 in green, held by a Republican, District 6 in teal, held by a Democrat, and District 2 in pink, held by a Democrat. So those are the elections that are on the horizon for this November. Clearly District 4, the green district in the north, is the true crux of taking a majority in the school board. And so we'll be seeing kind of how those lines shape out. The state legislative delegation, chaired by Eric Allen, has proposed kind of a least change map. So you'll see that on the right. This map would really structure the kind of pinwheel around Marietta. And you can see the kind of green lines show you what the map would have used to look like versus what it would look like now. The green outline is what it used to look like. The colors is how they're proposing it. What you'll note is very little changes in this map. Every district kind of keeps its solid core. and essentially kind of has to change slightly given population changes. There's also some unifications of different communities of interest. But again, we don't know which of these maps will become true. So in the meantime, we are looking for candidates all over Cobb County in anticipation of what these lines could look like. And I will close with the Board of Commissioners. Just like the school board, these maps are still being actively litigated in the state legislature. So the map that you see here is the current commission districts. The Democrats hold districts 2 and 4. 4 is Monique Sheffield, and 2 is Jerica Richardson. District 4 is really centered in South Cobb, Powder Springs, Mableton, Austell. District 2 is really centered in Smyrna and East Cobb. And so both of those districts were elected in 2020 and are not up for election this year. Instead, the 2 Republican-held seats are up for election this year. So District 1, centered in Ackworth and West Cobb, is held by Republican Kelly Gambrill. We expect she's running for re-election. And then District 3, which is held by Commissioner Burrell, a Republican, is also up for election this year. And this is probably the swingiest district in the county, which is why there's a lot of attention put into what its ultimate lines will look like. Just like with the school board map, Chairman Allen and the legislative delegation have proposed kind of a least change map, where these maps basically just slightly change to accommodate population change, but otherwise keep their base structures. But we're still waiting to see the consensus and whether the Republicans are going to try to defeat local control on these maps. Regardless, though, we do not have any Democrats who have announced yet for District 1 or District 3 on the county commission, and so we are actively seeking candidates for these 2 commission districts. So I will go ahead and close up just to say that this has hopefully given you a good overview of what redistricting has done to the landscape of Cobb County, of what districts are currently in play and are on the focus area for the Cobb County Democrats, which seats we're still recruiting candidates for, and how can we be more active in ensuring a real deep bench of candidates with democratic values moving forward in the process through these local seats. At the end of the day, local elections matter. They are crucial to the governance of our county and to our state government. And we will continue to have them in the highest focus here in the Cobb County Democrats. If you have any interest in running for office, you can reach us at the Cobb Democrats website. You can also reach me directly just by visiting or just by shooting me over an email. The best email for that is going to be Matthew, M-A-T-T-H-E-W, at cobbcountydemocrats.org. Just at cobbdemocrats.org. So Matthew at cobbdemocrats.org. You can also reach us through our contact page in our website, or you can just decide you're going to run for office, and we'll come find you at that point. Thank you guys again so much for joining us, and have a great rest of your night.